Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Palm Tree Sports. My name is Corey Pujols. I am your host, and as always is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Happy Saturday, guys. I hope all is well wherever you may be listening from. It's a pleasure to come to you this Saturday afternoon, and we have quite a few things to talk about here in this relatively loaded show for today, guys. We're going to get into what's going on this evening and tomorrow as well, and then we will also be going over some of the details of recent events. I know we missed last week, and I apologize for that, guys. I was unable to do the show, but we are back and better than ever, baby. So I'm glad to have you guys here, and as always, we'll go ahead and get started with what's going on in the world of the NFL. For those of you who do not know, I really enjoy the NFL. I really enjoy football in general. Is the first thing I fell in love with. So that's kind of the reason why we start the show off with football. I try to keep things in a continuity realm so that way you kind of know what to expect already. But if you haven't, this is what you should look out for, guys. We're always going to start with the NFL, and then we're going to wrap up with what to watch. In between, we are going to cover the NBA, the MLB. We got a little bit of college sports to talk about as well. And then also a little bit of wrestling and mixed martial arts coming your way this weekend. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about, so let's just dive on into it, guys. So first off, for those who do not know, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my favorite team in the NFL. I was born and raised in Tampa 29 years, and I'm still here in Central Florida. I love it with every fiber of my being, I'll tell you that much. But it does get a little bit harder. There's been a recent growth in personnel here, and with that, that also means that there's been a growth in the talent pool. So that's something we'll get into as far as college is concerned. But for the pros, what we have to talk about here are actually a few accessory-based things that are going on here in Tampa Bay. So one of the biggest things that a lot of people have been asking for, both in Tampa and outside of Tampa, are for the Creamsicle jerseys to come back. So for those who do not know, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were founded in 1976, and at that time, the original jersey that we used was an orange creamsicle color with white. So it's reminiscent of the Tennessee Titans. The orange is a different shade, of course, but it's reminiscent of their color wave. And for those of you who have seen the Volunteers, it's a perfect example of ingenuity, I think, just simply because I think that jersey was always connected to the losing aspect of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers rather than them as a franchise. And now that we have a few Super Bowls under our belt, now that the GOAT has played here and called this place his home, which we are immensely proud of. For those of you who do not know, we were very accepting of Tom Brady. We love him down here, and we hope that he, has a permanent residence down here and always comes back to visit. Now, with that being said, those creamsicle jerseys will be played sometime this year. We do not know exactly when that's going to be, but the date reveal will be on July 12th of this year. So be on the lookout for that in about a week, guys, and actually less than a week. That's going to be something that's going to shake things up here in Tampa as we are looking forward to those jerseys returning. I myself would love to get a custom Brady jersey, but as a creamsicle, because I was really hoping he would get the chance to wear those, and he did not. So we will work on that when we get the opportunity. Now, also, there are some interesting things going on from the players' perspective. So as you guys know, we are moving into training camp very, very soon, and things are going to start lighting up. Especially the newsreels with the players to look out for, and obviously who's stepping up in camp and who's stepping down, players that may or may not get cut and or signed depending on their abilities in the offseason, and then the starters will be determined closer to when the season begins. Obviously, we already know some of the continuity in Tampa Bay with the starters that we do have, such as the receiving core, some of the defenders, and also a couple of special team personnel. But with that being said, Carlton Davis, our star cornerback, mentioned this in an interview. He said, for the doubters, they're in for a rude awakening if they think we lost something now that Tom Brady has retired. Obviously, we have. We lost the GOAT. However, the idea that this team is somehow dead in the water seems to elude the team itself. In other words, they don't believe that they're down and out. They don't believe that they are going to do any worse than we did last year, making the playoffs and winning the division on a 7-9 record. I pose the idea that we could possibly, my apologies, be a better team this year. Now you're asking yourself, how is it that Tampa Bay is going to be a better team? They just lost Tom Brady. Allow me to explain. Well, Tom Brady is the GOAT, and I miss him, and we all miss him. Okay, but for continuity of the team, it may actually be a little bit better knowing that the head honcho isn't there. What do you mean by that, Corey? I'm going to tell you. There's an expectation to live up to when Tom Brady's on your team. Not living up to that expectation could lead to a few different things, such as what happened in the offseason, having coaches fired or pushed out of the team, having players let go, such as Leonard Fournette and Donovan Smith. And then you also have the idea of the change in the guard, right? So here we are, we're going to have a much younger quarterback, a much different packaged quarterback, in my belief, that will start in Baker Mayfield. If not Baker, it'll be Kyle Trask. Two very young quarterbacks with a promising upside. Baker's upside may be bigger than Kyle Trask, but with that being said, Kyle was a Gator and he has that dog in him. We'll have to see what happens during the preseason, especially in training camp, to determine what's going to happen next for them at quarterback. But when you look across the rest of this team may have actually gotten better in the offseason. Picking up pieces to help solidify the offensive and defensive line as well as the linebacking positions. And that's going to lead us into the third thing that we have to talk about for Tampa Bay, which is how well these young players are performing. So three of the standouts that I have from Tampa Bay so far in this offseason, and boy are they standouts, would be rookie Servassier Dennis, who was edge rusher looking to pick up that third linebacking position behind Devin White and Levante David. Then we have Rachaad White, our second-year running back, who absolutely was stunning last year for us. As a rookie, performed very, very well, and it's something that we are very proud of. He was able to win that job, the starting job, that is, against Leonard Fournette, and he is now our feature back. Luke Goedeke, who we also drafted last year, who did not performed very well last year, seems to have made strides to getting a lot better. Now, he did switch off with the other guard, which is Tristan Wirfs, and he is now playing Tristan's position, which he may be more natural at. I'm hoping that Tristan is able to play the same way on the left side of the field as he did the right side of the field, as he was a top 3 offensive lineman last year and has been since he's come out of college. The kid's an absolute stud. Here's just hoping that Luke Goedeke could take notes and also learn to be as pivotal and as rock solid as Tristan Wirfs has been on that right side. So these are all players to look out for, not just in training camp, but also during the preseason. And with the preseason knocking on the door, we're getting closer every week. Just take in consideration that things like this will continue to change the scope of where Tampa Bay goes and even possibly who the starting quarterback is. Having an offensive line is key a good offensive line that is key to good quarterback success in the NFL. That's something we've seen with every team that's won the Super Bowl. And you look at Patrick Mahomes right now. When he played against Tampa Bay a couple years back, his offensive line was disintegrated to hell, guys. Okay, so it made it a lot easier for us to be able to clamp down. Now, that's no excuse, and that's to take nothing away from Tampa Bay, but I just want to give you that, guys, an example because the kid has been to 3 Super Bowls and he's won 2 of them. Okay, so keep that in mind, that a good starting offensive line is going to be something pivotal for a quarterback to be able to push, especially deep into the playoffs, as Patrick Mahomes has been able to do. When you look at also Joe Burrow and Josh, what's his name from Buffalo? You guys know who I'm talking about. These are examples of quarterbacks, young quarterbacks with good offensive lines. So here's hoping that these offensive lines in general, not just for Tampa Bay, but also for the Jaguars and the Miami Dolphins that we'll be talking about shortly, are able to gel together and create a great, plentiful atmosphere for the quarterback to be able to do exactly what he needs to do, which is distribute the ball properly out to his receivers and move down the field in a general kind of manner. So, guys, that's what's going on here in Tampa. There are more things that will be popping up as soon as we get closer to the preseason, of course. But for the time being, the biggest things, like I said, those standouts right there, Servassier Dennis, Rachaad White, and Luke Goedeke. Also, the quarterback controversy in Tampa is still on and popping. So, again, we will find out more as we get closer. Now, moving over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval, stand up. The Jags recently actually just signed the head coach's Doug Peterson's son, who is a tight end. His name is Josh Peterson. I believe he was playing in the USFL. And so the Jaguars have just signed him to a contract. We'll see exactly how that pans out. I don't know if we've ever had quite this scenario in the NFL, but we will monitor it closely and see what happens. Hopefully he pans out for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they will have been able to add another weapon to the offense to help Trevor Lawrence become that much more of the him that he has slowly been becoming over these last few years. It's something I look forward to, of course. And with that being said, per Trevor Lawrence, this is one interesting thing. Something that he had a lot of in college but is finally getting more of now is continuity with his coaching staff. He says it's been the biggest help for him this offseason. These are his words. And he looks forward to what they're able to accomplish, knowing that they have more time and relationship ties under their belt. And that is important for any relationship in any sport, guys. I'm sure you guys can look at many different situations where coaches, the one that stands out for me is going to be Phil Jackson with the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers. He was able to win 11 championships between the two teams, 6 with MJ in Chicago, 5 out in LA with Kobe, and that's an example of what happens when you have continuity with a player and a team. So it's very important for Trevor Lawrence to be in good position and cahoots with his head coach, his offensive coordinators, and the offensive-minded personnel that they also have on the coaching staff. That's also going to lead to Josh Peterson, the new tight end that I just mentioned, who is Doug Peterson's son again, signing with them. It's going to lead to better continuity with him as well, and that's something that could end up performing very well for them in the future. And we will see that most likely take shape within the preseason, as the division that they are in is one of the weaker divisions. They are clearly the best team in that division, and I look forward to them stomping the other teams, the Texans, the Colts, and the Titans. So with that being said, the last thing to mention about what's going on with the Jaguars is something we've talked about the last few weeks. For those of you who know, that Duval's Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium is now set to be renovated throughout the season, which means they will be playing games elsewhere. It's still an unfinished situation, to say the least. They are still in contact with the Daytona Speedway, which all signs point to them having a deal. They just need to get it in writing and get it official for all intents and purposes. Obviously, they have not reached exactly where they want to be, right, for this deal, but like I said, all signs pointing to that being the option, and not only the option, but the best option for them. The housing itself will be able to fit somewhere around the 90,000 mark, which is about what every major stadium is reaching 4 games, especially for football. So this will be something that I look forward to seeing. I don't know if there's ever been games played at the Daytona Speedway, but if there has not, then this will be a wonderful first experience. I look forward to seeing what happens there, as the Daytona Speedway is one huge location, okay? And again, it's an outside location branded by a racing strip for NASCAR. So I look forward to seeing what happens, guys. I really hope that they're able to close that deal out soon. The sooner the better, and then obviously they can also start to put their own imprint on what's going on there, marketing themselves properly, especially for the lesser-known individuals who are maybe getting into football, maybe younger, maybe have aspirations of playing, and they don't have that in Daytona. Daytona doesn't have college or an NFL team. So that would be very cool for them to get to experience, and I hope that they're able to make the most of it. So, now that we've covered 2 of the teams in Florida, we have yet one more team to cover. That would be the Miami Dolphins. By far the team that has the least going on right now. Again, I'm always going to mention that just for the sheer fact that you have to take into consideration that when Tua Tagovailoa is on the field, this is one of the best teams in the entire league. And they can only presumably get better, especially with the continuity and possible signing of Dalvin Cook, which is the first thing we're going to talk about, right? So here's the deal. Miami offered Dalvin Cook contract. He rejected it, okay? Now, there are but a few reasons why a player would reject a offer from a team, especially as a free agent and for the team that they would want to play for. So the first thing that would cause them to reject it is obviously not enough money. Let's be honest. Dalvin Cook is most likely a top 10 running back in the league when he's healthy. The question is, can he stay healthy? For a guy that believes he can stay healthy, I wouldn't be surprised that he's going to be looking for, if not top dollar, next to top dollar, which is a perfect example of what's going on. I'm not exactly sure if that's the exact reason or if there are other things involved with the reason why he didn't sign, but objectively speaking, guys, that's what's going on, okay? He most likely didn't get the offer that he wanted, and he is going to wait for the offer that he wants before he signs. Another thing would be guaranteed money versus money that you have to earn. And what does that mean? What do you mean by that, Corey? Okay, so guaranteed money is the money you're going to get even if you retire next year. Okay, let's say you play this season, you say, I'm just not cut out to play football anymore. Okay, you're still going to get paid for that year. All right, you're still going to get paid for that. Tom Brady's still getting paid by Tampa Bay. All right, that's a perfect example of guaranteed money. All right, now sometimes there are clauses for players to get paid. A few years ago, Gronk needed, I think it was like 5 or 6 catches in a game to get a $1 million bonus. So Tom Brady threw him, a couple of passes, and he made his bonus. That is a perfect example of the money that you will earn through, whatever the requirement is. For a running back, it might be you have to run for 1,000 yards. You have to touch the ball 500 times. You see what I'm saying? So there's a number of things that it could be. Whatever it is, Dalvin Cook rejected the offer, meaning that they could still be in business, or Dalvin Cook could have changed his mind. Could he be looking at somebody else in the AFC East? The Patriots. We don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. We'll see. But right now, it's a question mark, guys. So, Miami, don't hold your breath. Just keep on doing what you guys do, and we will see what happens there. Now, the Fins are eyeballing slot work for Jalen Ramsey. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you. Jalen Ramsey has been a good cover cornerback since coming in the league. I personally believe he's an overrated corner, and I've seen him play. Yes, he's a great player, sure, but there's plenty of great players out there. Let's talk about when he's one-on-one with the greats. We've seen him burned a number of times over the last few years. Mike Evans was one of the ones who burned him pretty badly for the final touchdown catch against the Rams a few years back in the playoffs when the Bucs almost made that amazing comeback on the Rams. And that is an example of what I mean, where slot work may be the move for him by virtue of the fact that, yes, he can cover on the outside, but who says he has to cover on the outside all the time? Perhaps you have somebody who's a little bit faster who can catch up from behind, maybe somebody a little bit taller who can deal with the bigger wide receivers, which would be on the flanks, on the outside of these routes. Guys, it's something to take in consideration. Mike Evans as a wide receiver has not really been checked by any defensive backs, Marshawn Lattimore being the closest one, but they're division rivals. You expect that, okay? So I say that to say this. Hopefully, Jalen Ramsey can transform himself into a defensive back who prides himself not just on outside and single coverage, but also in the slot, being able to shut down a lot of third down opportunities for teams to convert those third downs into first downs and help them get off the field more consistently. That most likely is the idea behind what they're doing with him in the slot. I look forward to seeing what happens there. Should he pass, it'll make the defense that much better. Should he fail, then I guess we'll just see him on the outside pretty much all the time, and somebody else will have to fill the slot role, or at least be able to contain the slot role so that the outside defenders and safeties can do their job. These are all things, like I said, just to take in consideration, especially when you think about the defense that they have, which is a relatively good defense. I don't know what's going to become of it, but I'll tell you this much. Jalen Ramsey is a heck of a player, and if they can get the most out of him, it'll definitely be to their benefit. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about was a question that I saw on Twitter, and I'm going to start doing this more consistently because, let's just be honest, there are a lot of good conversations going on there. Again, a lot of open-minded individuals, a lot of closed-minded individuals too, but we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about what we have going on here in Florida. And with that being said, one of the best questions that I saw was, are the Fins the favorite to win the loaded AFC East? Again, that division is one of the most loaded divisions, maybe top 3 in the league right now, okay? You have the Buffalo Bills made the playoffs. You have the New York Jets, who have one of the best young defenses in the league, and they just got Aaron Rodgers. You have the Miami Dolphins, who might have the best overall roster in the AFC East. And then you have the New England Patriots, who are still a dangerous team whenever they're led by Bill Belichick, who is still their head coach now 20-something years later. Guys, I have no idea who's going to win this division, but let me tell you, when Tua is on the field, I mentioned this earlier, they could very well be the second best team in the league, okay? I'm not putting anybody over the Chiefs because the Chiefs have the best head coach in the league right now. They probably have the best quarterback in the league right now, and one of the best rosters also well put together in the league right now. With that being said, Miami has all the tools to be able to contend with the Chiefs. They might be able to dig a little bit deeper than the Chiefs as far as the bench is concerned. I don't know if you can outcoach the Chiefs, but you might be able to out-athlete the Chiefs, okay? As in have better ball players on your team that can make better plays when called upon and needed the most. Will they win the division? I don't know. That division is going to come down to really who is able to win the most in-division games. I really almost don't care what these teams' records are outside of the division because they have 3 of the best teams, maybe 3 top 10 teams in the league right now. When you take that into consideration, they could very well win the division the same way the Buccaneers did last year, which was with a 7-9 record. The Seattle Seahawks also did that, and they knocked off the Chiefs during that playoff run that they had for, if you guys remember, Marshawn Lynch had that Beastquake run part 1. Okay, so I'm not sure. I don't want to put all my eggs in a basket, but I would say Miami has as good a shot as any to win the division. I look forward to seeing the games against the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. I'm not sure how the Jets will fare, but they also can be very dangerous. So we will just have to wait and see, guys. With that being said, I think that they are the favorite to win the AFC East. I think they're the favorite, but that doesn't mean they will. I'm gonna stick with that feeling because I know a second ago I was thinking about it as I was saying it. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I think they are the favorite. I think so. We'll see what happens in the near future as we get closer to the preseason, which will ultimately get us closer to the regular season. Again, I can't wait to see what these 3 teams do. Go Tampa Bay, go Jaguars, go Dolphins, except for when you guys are playing Tampa Bay. All right? All right, now let's go ahead and get into our first break. When we get back, we're going to talk NBA, MLB, a little college sports, and then we'll go from there on what to watch for tonight and what is coming up in the near future for you guys, okay? My name has been Corey Pujols. I am your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, and it is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, it's your boy, the SoCal Saint, the host of the premier professional wrestling podcast online today, the IE Elite Wrestling Show. If you're a fan and have a passion for the world of professional wrestling, this is the show for you. I take you inside the ropes with all the athleticism, high-flying, and hard-hitting action, and then we take it backstage with all the backstage drama and backstabbing that goes on in the world of professional wrestling today. If something's going on in the world of professional wrestling, rest assured, the SoCal Saint knows what's going on. He's going to let you know too. If you're a fan, check us out every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on IE Sports Radio. The IE Elite Wrestling Show, your direct feed for all that is professional wrestling, on the only network that is your direct feed for all that is sports. Check us out.
Welcome back to this episode of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host. And as always, it is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. All right, guys. So we already covered the NFL and football and what's going on there. Let us now graciously move into the NBA, where I do have a bit of information for a couple of our teams. Obviously, the draft took place, and I am very proud of both the Heat and the Magic for picking up pieces that will most likely increase their opportunities at being better. Unfortunately, for Miami, they actually lost a bit of help that they had to get to the finals this past year. Let's get into it. So first things first. On a good note, the Heat were able to re-sign Kevin Love. Okay, that's a big deal. He showed up pretty good for them when they needed him, at least. And I look forward to seeing him have a bigger role as he reaches the twilight part of his career. He's still a pretty good shooter, and if he's able to get his warm-ups in, he's that much better on the floor. His basketball IQ is going to be very helpful. As you guys know, he played with King James in Cleveland, and I believe he will draw on that experience to help lift this team to be a better team. We could see him perform sort of like Al Horford has been performing later in his career, which is something that I look forward to because Al Horford has been balling out. Now, the guy is a Gator, so you expect greatness from him, but nonetheless, we will see how Kevin Love does this year. The re-sign was big for them. Now, when you get somebody, sometimes you lose people. Unfortunately, the Heat have lost quite a few players this offseason, chief among them being Gabe Vincent, a guy who helped elevate the Heat to a win over the Nuggets during the the NBA Championship, and a player who is quite frankly one of their best offensive weapons and definitely helped out on the defensive side of the ball as well. So, you ask yourself, what do they do or what can they do? I'm being honest with you, I'm not sure if they can replace Gabe Vincent, but I'll tell you this much. If they're able to land Damian Lillard, it will be a lot easier to deal with. Now, Gabe Vincent did sign his contract with the Lakers, so shout out to the Lake Show for getting that guy. That was a great pickup by then. The Lakers definitely won the offseason this year, and for a team that was, a sweep away from making the NBA Finals and possibly winning their second title in the last 5 years, that's kind of a big deal. So I look forward to seeing what Gabe Vincent is able to do for the Lakers. Unfortunately, that comes to the dismay of the Heat, who lose one of their star players from this past season. Now, the Heat are still eyeballing Damian Lillard. Again, if they're able to pick up Damian Lillard, that would essentially at least solidify the loss of Gabe Vincent and be able to replace that starting with somebody who's on the same level, if not a higher level. Damian Lillard is one of the most gifted basketball players in the entire NBA right now. He's a great shot. He's got terrific handles, a high basketball IQ, and the ability to play a lot of different positions in the game. He is obviously best suited for point guard, but let's be honest, he can play a small guard position, or a shooting guard, I should say, position, and that's something that in Miami he could find himself doing, especially with the flexibility in Miami's skill set. To say the least, this team can do a bunch of different things. Now, I do think, just like the Lakers, they need to get a little bit bigger on the inside. Obviously, Bam and Kevin Love are great options, but they clearly were not enough to stop Joker. So, with that being said, that's just something I think the Heat need to continue to look at and try to work on. Unfortunately, they also lose Max Strus, who's part of a 3-team trade, in which the Heat were able to pick up 2 second-round picks. Max Strus is definitely going to be helpful to I believe he went to the Lakers. He's going to be very helpful to the Lakers and what they're able to accomplish, especially having better role players off the bench, which is something that was a bit of a detriment for them last year. Outside of Rui Hachimura, everybody else was pretty spotty. And that's not something we're going to be able to have when you got LeBron going out there putting 40 points on the board and nobody else is able to crack 25, okay? He needs help out there, but the Heat need help too. So what will the Heat do? I'm not really sure. Like I said, they're still eyeballing Damian Lillard. They had a decent draft pickup, so I would still look for them to sign a few more guys. They're going to need to if they are going to fill out this roster anyway like they did last year in order to make the finals. Again, that team was able to go to a finals and take a game away from the Nuggets, who were absolutely the terror of the NBA last year in the playoffs. So I look forward to seeing what the Heat are able to do. Now, there's not too much information, obviously, going on because of the offseason. Yeah, the Summer League is in swing, but those are the younger players, fresh out of the draft, players that we are not going to be sure if we're going to see this NBA season coming up. So, it's important to watch these young guys, but as we do watch these young guys, that leads us into what's going on with the Magic. Two of their guys, Black and Howard, will be playing tonight in their Summer League debuts against the Detroit Pistons. So, for all my Orlando Magic fans out there, guys, this will be... my apologies. This will be the best opportunity you have to get a look at your young players who are fresh out of college and with a lot of talent, a lot ready to shake up the NBA, much like the other rookies have so far. Now, mind you, the Summer League just started about a week ago, give or take, so we've only seen but a few games. I look forward to seeing what these kids are able to do on the court, and especially in front of their peers, people that they may very well be playing with this year as the NBA season gets ready to return to action within a few months. Now, I'm not sure if this is a good move. I imagine it's a good move for the sake of the organization. But for those of you who do not know, the Magic have promoted Anthony Parker to the GM position, replacing John Hammond. I don't know if anybody was impartial to John Hammond or may not be impartial to Anthony Parker. That was the move that was made earlier this week. I look forward to seeing whether this move ends up producing fruit or it ends up producing a drought. Only time will tell, guys, and we will have to wait and see what happens there. Again, due to the fact that we're in the offseason, we have the Summer League going on right now. A lot of the information that's going to be big is going to be coming out of the younger players, and as we get more games uncovered, we will see how those young guys are doing. Again, in the meantime, it just started about a week ago, so next week I hope to have some more information for you on how the young guys are performing and what to look forward to, especially as we near the beginning of this next NBA season. Here's hoping that the Nuggets do not repeat as champions, because let's be honest, this was one of the driest NBA finals we've ever watched. It was one of the most lopsided NBA finals we've ever watched, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the other teams were bad, just so much that Joker was that good, and then obviously Jamal Murray turning into playoff Jamal Murray, or just Kobe for that matter, is something kind of scary. Somebody's going to have to take them down in the West, and if they're unable to, the Nuggets will repeat, and here's hoping that that does not happen again. Like I said, unfortunately for my Heat, who have lost a couple of finals now within the last few years, they're going to need to go back to the drawing board in a heavy way. So, two young teams, two decently coached teams here in Florida. They just have to get better. Orlando has more work to do than Miami, but Miami still has a lot of work to do if they want to return to the finals. We'll see what happens, guys. We'll see what happens. Now for the sad part of the show. What has happened to my Rays? The fall from grace that has taken place in Tampa Bay for the Rays baseball team, once atop the entire MLB, now second to the Atlanta Braves, at least record-wise. Still have the best record in the in our conference. With that being said, we've lost 6 in a row, guys. 6 in a row. It's the worst losing streak so far this year. And obviously, as you guys would ask, what's going on with the Rays? Everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt. If you guys remember the year after the Bucks won the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay had 15 players on injured reserve. That's how it looks right now for the Rays. All right, as you guys can see, I'm a little bit more serious about this because this seems to be something that consistently gets Tampa Bay and doesn't seem to be any slowing down in. 6 in a row we've lost. No longer the best record in the MLB. Second best record behind the Braves, as I mentioned before. And why do you think I repeated that? Well, guess who we got to play? Atlanta. Tonight. We lost the first game by a score of 2-1 the other day. It's just unfortunate because the Braves are playing tremendous baseball right now, sitting at a record of 59-28. The Rays are sitting at a 57-34 record. That 6-game loss is the difference between us being at 63 wins to the 59 that the Braves have. You ask, why is that a big deal? Well, momentum is everything. And Atlanta has all the momentum right now. They're kicking ass, to say the least. They have 2 more games against the Braves. The Rays, that is, with the next game happening tonight at 7:15 p.m. So that's the first thing on what to look out for tonight, guys. If you guys are in the market for some MLB, for some good, in theory, MLB, the 2 best record holders in the MLB will be going at it for the second game of a 3-game series. Again, that game is tonight at 7:15 p.m. I will be doubling back to that along with the UFC event that's taking place tonight, and we will see what happens there. Hopefully the Rays can get back on the winning side of things. They will need it. As we head into this third game against the Braves, which I believe takes place tomorrow afternoon, if I remember correctly. I didn't actually jot that one down, but I believe it'll be tomorrow afternoon sometime around 2:40 p.m., I believe it is. So, guys, if that's incorrect, I would like somebody to throw that into the chat just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure I read that correctly, and that is when the game will be. Now, the following series gets a little bit, in theory, easier for us as we are headed to Kansas City to play the Royals. That is a 3-game series that will take place starting Friday, July 14th at 8:10 p.m., guys. So mark that calendar again. That's going to be Friday, July 14th at 8:10 p.m. There's going to be a little bit of a break for the Rays after this series with the Braves. So I will look forward to seeing that series as whether the Rays are able to win a game in this series against the Braves. Hopefully they can bounce back against Kansas City, especially knowing that we're playing the best team in the league right now, at least record-wise, in the Atlanta Braves. So let's go Rays. Hopefully we can get this dub back and find something to be happy about, as it has been a tough week and a half for us Rays fans in Tampa Bay. And again, it's just something... Yes, I expected it at some point this season. I was trying to avoid it, but let's just be honest. We knew this was going to take place at some point. You can't be perfect forever, guys. So, Rays, let's get back on the horn. Let's get back to our winning ways. Let's try to dispose of the Braves tonight and tomorrow and wrap up what we have going on here. Yes? Now, that's what's going on in the MLB. Let's go ahead and talk about the college... Well... college in general, because actually I was going to say the college football scene, but actually the only information I really have coming out of Florida is actually from the Florida Gators. Now I know you're thinking, oh, you're just a Florida Gator fan. No, in actuality, both FSU and the Miami Hurricanes are not making any serious splash moves in the recruiting pool for this offseason. That's not really a weird thing. Miami's kind of been in a slouch the last 5, almost 10 years now. They haven't really done anything relevant in recent memory. They haven't topped any type of college football scoreboards, let alone the rankings, the top 25. Miami's just been a perpetual hellfall for the last 10 years or so. Now, the FSU, Florida State Seminoles are different, okay? They've been up and down, all right? Just 10 years ago, Jameis Winston, as a freshman, led the Noles to a not just a state championship, but a NCAA championship, beating Auburn that year. Auburn was, without the shadow of a doubt, not Cinderella story, but they clearly were the story of the year, and FSU was able to steal that spotlight from them in the game that mattered most. And since then, it seems like they've also been in a perpetual loop of hellfall, if you will, where they've been good, and then they've been bad, and they've been good, and they've been bad, and they've been good and bad, and I don't know what's going on there in FSU. So that's what's going on there. They are the best team, at least in the state of Florida at the moment, per college football, that is. But the waves that are being made right now by the Gators are, get this, the Gators are now back top 10 in recruiting, something we haven't done in quite a few years. I actually don't think we were top 10 in recruiting since Will Muschamp was here. Okay, for those of you who do not know, Will Muschamp was the head coach that took the head ball coach that took over for Urban Meyer after Urban Meyer split for the Ohio State Buckeyes. For the record, you suck, Urban, and so does the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, down here in Florida, for those of you who do not know, there are teams that we do not like. Contrary to belief, we like our rivals more than we like Ohio State. We don't like Ohio State down here. We just don't. All right, we don't like Michigan. We don't like Ohio State. We don't like that whole dang conference. Okay, they're all whack. They're fake. They're pretenders. They're wannabes. All right, the SEC is where real football is being played currently, and it's been that way for the last 25, 30 years. All right, so Ohio State, y'all can keep stealing people's players, and y'all can keep flipping commits and coaches and all that good stuff. What do you have to show for it? Nothing in comparison to the SEC right now. There's my little crap talking for the college football scene. Same thing goes for Michigan. We don't care about y'all either over there in Michigan and Ann Arbor. I like college football game day. I don't like the location. Anyway, so the Gators have been doing a tremendous job in the recruiting scene. Obviously, we were able to pick up a 4 or 5 star, a 4-star quarterback for the future, and obviously we've been picking up 4 and 5 star recruits left and right, blue chip recruits, which are things that you look forward to. That is kind of what creates the top 10 ranking pool as you have known to see it throughout college football, where Alabama and Georgia have dominated atop the last decade, 2 decades, going on 3 decades now, actually. Okay, so I look forward to seeing what the Gators are able to do with all these young recruits. As soon as I get a list, I will go ahead and jot those names down for you guys, and hopefully next week I'll be able to give you those names. If not, be on the lookout for them. Once they are set in stone, I would like to get to a point where I know that these players are going to be a part of the team and not going to jump ship, because we have a couple of guys that have flipped from Florida to other teams. Luckily, we didn't lose our quarterback or any of our key defensive players. Now, there has been a little bit of a saddening going on in Florida, and the reason for that is simple. We lost the College World Series to LSU in a rematch of the 15 College World Series, in which saw the Gators dominate the LSU Tigers for our first World Series victory. Here we were thinking that hopefully it would repeat itself here. Unfortunately, it did not. LSU was able to take the first game. The Gators bounced back, scoring 24 runs in the second game, setting a college World Series record. Unfortunately, we were not able to close the third game. It looks like we left all of our magic in that second game, where LSU pulled away and made an ugly fool out of the Gators. I will say this. LSU is the team that I'm most impartial to over on the West. So congratulations to them. Perhaps they deserve it. And I look forward to seeing if this is going to be a rematch next year. A lot of players from both Florida and LSU will be headed to the MLB, especially through the draft this offseason. So guys, look out for that. But still a lot of continuity with the teams here. I can't wait to see what happens next season. Better luck next time, Gators. We love you. We stand by you. And we hope that you're able to capture one next year and bring it back home so that all will be right in the state of Florida and in the SEC. On the flip side to this, it just shows the greatness of the Southeastern Conference Division, and or divisions, I should say, with the East and the West. The Florida Gators and the LSU Tigers are eternal rivals, okay? And that's in college football, and I believe also in baseball. What does that mean? That every year there is a team from the East that has to play a team from the West. The team from the East is the Gators. The team from the West is LSU. And let me just tell you, there's a lot of history there. There's been a lot of magic between those two teams, and it's always entertaining, to say the least. Always entertaining. So, congratulations to the LSU Tigers. You guys earned it, much to the chagrin of my Florida Gators. Guys, let's take one more break, and when I get back, we'll go ahead and get ready to wrap this show up on what's going on tonight and what to look out for coming up on your television between tonight and tomorrow. Guys, my name is Corey Pujols. I am your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, and it is brought to you, as always, and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And guys, as you know, relationships are everything, and this is a nice little way to tie on a knot to the end of a wonderful show, something to discuss that isn't always discussed on radio shows, something that is a little bit different from what you may hear on traditional radio shows. So I am a big fan of that myself, as we are actually going to get into that part of what's going on my show, things that are sports, but a little bit more geared towards those who are looking for the entertainment portion of the sport versus actual competitiveness. Alright guys, so that's what we're about to get into again right here at the end of my show. I'm going to give you some things to look out for, and of course my name is Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, my apologies, which is brought to you and powered by IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. You might say this is my favorite part of the show just because I get to give you guys a few things on what to look out for coming up. And as you may know, I am a huge overall sports fan. Most sports I do watch and enjoy even playing. But along with that comes sports entertainment. And that is in the form of tonight, AEW. For those who do not watch AEW or have not watched it before, it is your alternative to WWE. It stands for All Elite Wrestling, and All Elite Wrestling, AEW that is, has just recently started a new show called Collision, in which some fan favorites have returned to wrestling, such as CM Punk and Samoa Joe. So, if you are on the lookout for anything like that, tonight at 8 o'clock will be Collision. Again, AEW's new show, which is on its third now episode. And the main event is going to be one CM Punk versus Samoa Joe in the, I believe, quarterfinal matchup for the Owen Hart's prestigious championship for this year. So every year there is a Owen Hart Cup tournament in which wrestlers will compete against each other to determine who the winner of that tournament will be. And again, for this main event, we have Samoa Joe versus CM Punk. Just to give you an idea on how I feel about this, I haven't been the biggest CM Punk fan since the drama he had with the EVPs on AEW, the Young Bucks, and the Kenny Omega situation. I am a huge fan of the Elite, and for those of you who know who they are, I would encourage you to go see what took place behind the scenes. I think it was just under a year ago. So, go check that out, guys, if you haven't already seen it. Because of that, I've always been a huge fan of Samoa Joe. I've been watching Samoa Joe since about 2005, after he left Developmental Wrestling and went to TNA. There he had some wonderful matches with AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, and a bunch of other wrestling legends. So, I'm a huge Samoa Joe fan. I look forward to seeing how he does here tonight against CM Punk in the main event of Collision's main card. So that's what's going on on AEW. That show will be a 2-hour show, I believe it is. So if you haven't watched it again, I encourage you guys to go check it out. Should be a great card for tonight. A lot of stunning matches to look forward to. And I myself will be watching it as well. I will also be watching UFC 290. Guys, UFC 290 is a stacked card for tonight, alright? So, if you guys enjoy mixed martial arts, this is going to be one of the best cards for you to watch this year, okay? UFC 290 comes to you via Volk and Rodriguez. That's Alexander Volkanovski versus Jair Rodriguez, which is the main event for the 145 unification strap. That is correct. Jair Rodriguez is the interim title, as Volkanovski went up to 155 to challenge Islam Makhachev for the title. I believe he won that fight. Unfortunately, they believe Islam won, and I still have Volk as the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. And as a result of that, I look forward to seeing this, because Jair Rodriguez is clearly one of the most masterful strikers here in the UFC. I have him at number 6 as far as total striking in the UFC, and I look forward to seeing how this match turns out, because I have Volk at number 4, okay? That's just me personally. Everybody's list may be different, but if you're a fan of striking, if you're a fan of martial arts, if you're a fan of real combat, alright, this is going to be the main event for you guys. Volk versus Rodriguez. This is ultimate skill versus ultimate technique, guys. I cannot wait to see what happens here in this event. I personally am hoping that Volk is able to retain as he solidifies himself as one of the greatest to ever do it in the UFC, let alone mixed martial arts. And also because I love the camp that he trains out of. For those of you who do not know, I am a huge Israel Adesanya fan. He is one of my favorite fighters all time, and probably my favorite fighter right now to watch above 155. Below 155 would definitely be Max Holloway, which is a man who had great matches against Jair Rodriguez and Alexander Volkanovski. So, guys, Be on the lookout for this fight. Now, this entire card is stacked, so I can't just go on without mentioning these other fights. So look forward to the co-main event, which is Brandon Moreno versus Pantoja, okay? I don't remember Pantoja's first name, but I can tell you this much. He has beaten Moreno before, okay? Now, the Assassin Baby, Brandon Moreno, is probably my favorite Mexican-born fighter at the moment, and I say that to say that Yair Rodriguez is also a Mexican-born fighter. Both of them are champions in the UFC, so Mexico, stand up. I'm sure these guys are making you proud and making you very happy. However, this is not a good look for you guys, all right, at the moment. Rodriguez fighting Volk, definitely the toughest test of his entire career. Pantoja versus Moreno. Pantoja has beaten Moreno again. That psychological type of effect definitely does wear on you. But I will say this. If there's anybody that can pull this out of the fire like Israel Adesanya did, I believe it's Brandon Moreno. And personally speaking, I look forward to him getting this win today. Guys, I am going for Brandon Moreno. I love the Assassin Baby. He's a wonderful fighter, a wonderful person outside the octagon. He's always happy when you see him. He's always smiling, and that's something that you love to see, especially on such a great fighter, somebody who has a lot to live for. So, after those two main events that you have, the main event and co-main event, I should say, we have the Reaper, Robert Whittaker, fighting Dues du Plessis. Okay, du Plessis is a South African striker who is undefeated in the UFC, but he is going against the Reaper, Bobby Nux. Guys, if you didn't know, I like me some Bobby Nux. Okay, the guy's an absolute phenomenal fighter. If you take away the blemishes on his career against Israel Adesanya, he's perhaps the best middleweight in the world at any given time, and a former interim champion for the UFC. Or, my bad, former champion at 185. Lost his title to Israel Adesanya, in fact. So I look forward to seeing how this fight goes. I am not a big fan of du Plessis. He is pretty arrogant, and yes, sometimes arrogant fighters can be cool, especially like Conor McGregor, BJ Penn in the past. There are a few guys who, the Diaz brothers, who have arrogance on their side. I don't believe this is one of those guys. He's very young, and yes, he may be good, but let's just be honest. Is he ready for the upper echelon? Is he ready for the Robert Whittakers, for the Marvin Vettori's, for the Jared Cannoniers, for the Israel Adesanyas in the middleweight division? I don't know. Certainly, he wouldn't be ready for Alex Pineda if he was still in the conference, or division, I should say, for that matter. So I look forward to seeing what happens here. Obviously, the last fight that I want to talk about is going to be Jalen Turner versus Dan Hooker. This is going to be one hell of a strike fest, guys. Dan Hooker is a certified psychopath inside the octagon, and Jalen Turner is no slouch. He's a very gifted brother who can handle the big lights. He's shown that to us in the last fight he was in. This is a step up in competition for him, but I would not be surprised to see this fight go fight of the night, if not knockout of the night. So be on the lookout for that, guys. If you enjoy striking, that will definitely be one of the fights on the card to look out for and definitely pay attention to, and I look forward to seeing it myself. I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts right here before giving you my final thought on the UFC 290 card. Robbie Lawler, filthy Robbie Lawler that is, will be retiring after this fight, so that's just one note to take in consideration. If you guys know anything about filthy Robbie Lawler, or ruthless Robbie Lawler I should say, Filthy was his original name when he was younger. But Ruthless Robbie Lawler is one of the hardest hitting, one of the biggest dogs in UFC history. He is a certified UFC Hall of Famer to come, and I can't wait to see him get in there. Until then, let's all marvel at his final fight, which I will take him by knockout via Nico Price, who is his opponent tonight. Nico Price may be very well a gifted mixed martial artist, but let's just be honest. Guys on their way out either go out with a bang or they go out with a... And I'm expecting this guy to go out with a bang, as he has done that his entire career. Lawler is definitely one of the most dangerous men to ever exist in the UFC, so I look forward to seeing this bout. As far as these four main fights for the well-known fighters, for those of you who follow the UFC, I'm going to take Dan Hooker over Jalen Turner. Dan Hooker is a little bit more experienced and probably a little bit more technically sound. Jalen Turner by no means is a slouch, so I would not be surprised to see him pull this out of the fire if Dan Hooker makes a mistake. But should Dan Hooker not make a mistake, this Australian-born psychopath will bring home the W, possibly by finish in the second round. Robert Whittaker versus du Plessis. Whittaker has the nickname Reaper for a reason. The man's an absolute terror, another Aussie from down under, and a guy that I really enjoy fighting. If you were to take Israel Adesanya out of the middleweight division, he would be my favorite middleweight most likely, without the shadow of a doubt. I really enjoy watching Robert Whittaker fight, aka Bobby Nux, aka The Reaper. Again, we will see what happens. I'm going to take Robert Whittaker probably by decision. I imagine Du Plessis has a big heart. You don't make it this far without one, unless he just hasn't fought anybody. But so far in the UFC, he's had a few challenges. So I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker by decision. Robert Whittaker could absolutely finish this fight, but we'll have to see if Du Plessis gets ahead of himself. Brandon Moreno versus, I believe it's Alexander Pantoja. I don't know if his first name's Alex. I think it was. I don't remember exactly, to be honest with you. Got a lot of names floating in my head. But I'll tell you this much. I saw a little bit of the highlights. Pantoja is an absolute monster. There's no doubt in my mind that he beat Brandon Moreno in those 2 fights. Beforehand, I believe it was 2 fights. But I will also say this. Nobody like Brandon Moreno has responded to a loss better. Except for Israel Adesanya, but that was to Alex Pineda, so that's different. But if anybody can do it, it's Brandon Moreno, the Assassin Baby. So I'm going to take Assassin Baby. I'm going to take him by first or third round stoppage. TKO would be my guess, as this guy's striking has gotten better each and every time he's graced the octagon. Pantoja held the advantage in the striking earlier in their careers, but we are now much more mature and down the road. We will see how Pantoja does in this game, but in this fight, I should say. But I look forward to seeing Brandon Moreno get his vindication and do just like Izzy did, and take that loss off of his record, or at least rectify that loss on his record to Pantoja. And for the main event, guys, I'm going to go no secret here. Alexander Volkanovski. Alexander the Great Volkanovski, that is. Again, training out of the same camp as Israel Adesanya. No wonder why his striking is so good. But also, Dan Hooker is part of that camp as well, for those of you who do not know. So Dan Hooker regularly trains with Alexander Volkanovski and Israel Adesanya. Hence the reason why I'm choosing both of these fighters from the same camp. They do just wonderful work down there in New Zealand and working with the Aussies. And I will tell you this much. Volk didn't get to where he is now on accident. The guy might have the biggest heart in all of the UFC, right? And a lot of skill to go with it, okay? A lot. As I said before, this matchup is going to be ultimate skill versus ultimate technique, and the skill part is on the side of Volkanovski. Ultimate technique is great. Ultimate skill, I believe, is better. All right, so we will see what happens there in that 145-pound division for the strap. I am super excited to see these fights. I can't wait to see what happens, and soon they will be fighting. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get ready to wrap this show up again. If you're looking for something to watch tonight, we have UFC 290, AEW Collision, along with Rays Baseball. Also, you're definitely going to want to stay and keep a heads up on what's going on in free agency for the NFL, for the NBA, and also what's going on in college sports, as the recruiting is in full swing still, and until we start this college football season. So that's what's been going on here in the state of Florida, guys. I really hope you enjoyed today's show. I look forward to all of the events that are taking place between in general tonight and this point forward, as there is going to be a lot to talk about moving forward, guys. My name has been Corey Pujols. I'm your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, and here's hoping that you guys come join us again next Saturday at 6 p.m. for another episode of Palm Tree Sports. If you want to get at me, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter. I am Corey Pujols. At Corey Pujols on Twitter and Instagram channel. You can search that name, you'll see me pop up, or you can search my real name, Corey Pujols, and I'll also pop up that way. I look forward to the conversations, guys. I look forward to hot takes, and also look forward to developing stories that continue to take place as we move on into the future of sports. I have been Corey Pujols, your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Dad. I love you, Dad. I look forward to talking to you, and I hope that we are able to connect and watch the different, sporting events, like I said, AEW, UFC, and the Rays game tonight. Again, my name is Corey Pujols. It's been a wonderful show. Spend time with your family. If you're going to church tomorrow, please be safe. The weather's been a little bit crazy, so just, hold your loved ones close. Take care of each other, and I'll look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend. Peace.